Every single one of us has a narrative and has a story in our mind of who we are supposed to be. How do you know that that's actually who you want to be and who you're supposed to be, and not who you've been conditioned to believe you're supposed to be?
There's this process called individuation, when you really start to separate who you are from everyone else that raised you. And more often than not, after that whole process, you end up unconsciously having this voice in your head that is telling you what to do, how to do it, what to wear, who to talk to, who not to talk to. And this voice, you don't realize it, but it's sharing the very specific on how you need to do things, what you need to wear, what not to think about. And more often than not, that voice is not yours. It's not that individuation voice that you learned to tune into at those critical times. What happens when you don't have it as your voice and you realize it's just been that parental voice that's stayed in your head far beyond when you've outgrown them? That's what we're going to be talking about in this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Bianca.
Welcome back, Evolvers. It's Emilia. And today we are going to be getting into an episode that is a conversation that honestly I have a lot behind the scenes with a lot of clients, to be fair. And it stems in the zone of parts. Right? IFS is a modality that I use often within the context of the work that I do with clients. And there will be many conversations where I'll start to hear a voice, or I'll ask clients a question around just basic stuff, right? What happened this weekend? How were the last week? And they'll start to get a telling me what's going on in their worlds. And this voice starts to come up and it doesn't sound like them at all. And we'll zoom into that moment and I'll kind of reflect back. Hey, like, can we zoom into that part a little bit? You know, that part might be saying, I'm so mad at myself, or I should have done this. I should have done that. I wore this, but I was really upset that I didn't wear this, right? Like there's this voice that comes in when we're talking about things. And it almost seems like these clients will go into an alternative reality or an alternative person. And it doesn't sound like their truest self at all. And so, you know, what I want to make sure that we chat about in this episode is if, you know, anyone is listening to this and joining this conversation and feeling like they're maybe not living in accordance with their true self, or they might not even know who or what that feels like, who that is, what that sounds like in their head, you're not alone, number one. And number two, have a dialogue around how when you have this inner critic that gets developed in your internal family system, how pervasive that can go, how deep that voice can shame and shun you, and how that usually is the driver or the limiter, I like to say governor of your life. And the implications are really serious. So there's this one client that I have, and she and I have been doing some really beautiful work and have been having some very powerful conversations when it comes to the parts work. And one of the things that I have observed and that she's vulnerably shared with me is that there's this part that she has, and obviously keeping it anonymous as always, but there's this part that comes in, and when she's about to go do things or even go into her modality of thinking of what she should decide to do, or even go into that process of decision making, there's this part that tends to step in, and we've named it as an inner critic. It's an inner critic part, more of that social manager that makes sure that she stays a specific way in social settings in particular. And we had this one session, it's now kind of coming to me now, where she was headed to a family gathering or social gathering, and that voice wanted her to look a very specific way, wanted her to dress a very specific way, and her truest self kind of wanted to say F you to that part. And that inner voice sounded very much like her mother. And what ended up resulting, she was talking to me after it, is that not only did that inner voice that she struggled with encourage her to dress a very specific way and appear and show up in a very specific manner. It was ironic because at the end, kind of reflecting upon that event, that inner voice literally sounded exactly like the mother of this client, who quite literally still to this day tells her what she should wear, how she should wear it, and tries to guide this woman's life, even though she's well into her 30s. And so her story, her experience is one of so many people's, because this inner voice, this inner critic that tells her what she should be doing, what she shouldn't say, it's so pervasive. And as we become these mature adults, it is so difficult to wrestle with that voice and to find one's true self and to find one's true opinions and to find whether or not she wants to wear something or not. And I struggle when I hear that come up, because I know it's holding her back, and I know it holds a lot of people back. And so the question is, are you living by someone else's standards? The truth is, more than likely, yeah, you are. And more than likely it comes to the standards that your parents want of you. And more than likely that's having you suffering on the day-to-day. And so understanding where it actually comes from, that inner voice, that inner critic, learning how to navigate it and understanding that it served a purpose, it served a function, and then recognizing how it doesn't have to control you anymore, I think is one of the most powerful things that we can do in our growth journey. So B, I know you have also worked with a lot of people with these parts. I also know you and I have both talked behind the scenes about our own inner critics and how they sound and how they impact us. And I want to hear from you in this.
Oh, Jesus. Many of us, this isn't just parents. Like, I really want to make this clear. We talk a lot about parents on this show, but like, we're not here to villainize parents and say parents are the root of all evil and whatever, right? Like, it's not accurate. Whether it was your parents, whether it was your family culture, whether it was someone at school, maybe a teacher, whoever. A sibling. There were certain people that influenced us more than others. So there's this concept in psychology called social learning theory, and it basically dives into how we learn anything, and ultimately how we learn things is through our social setting. And who we choose to imitate, who we choose to listen to, who we choose to take advice from is based on who influences us the most, who has our attention, who has our eyes and ears, and who is in charge of our life. Like, who has a say in how we are and who we are and how safe we are, which is why a lot of the times we talk about parents, because parents are your primary role models and caretakers and influences. And so most of us are growing up in environments where there are specific ideas of who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to look and how you're supposed to show up and what it means to be a part of that family or that culture or that religion or whatever, right? And when that is the ideology of the family, of course, as a child, what you're going to do is you're going to comply because you need to stay safe. And these are the only role models that you have. And this is the only information that you're getting in. So, of course, you're going to take it in and you're going to believe it because as children, that makes the most sense. What happens when you're a child and you're being told you need to be a certain way and act a certain way based on whoever your caretaker is, but your caretaker is significantly mentally unwell or unstable or emotionally unavailable or emotionally misattuned? Mm-hmm. You're getting fed misinformation. But when that's all you know, that becomes your identity. When that's all you know, that belief structure, that emotional pattern, that idea of the world and yourself and others becomes ingrained in who you are. And what if it's wrong? What if it's wrong? What if it's not true? What if it's not true that if boys do ballet, then they're faggots? Or if girls want to, play softball, then they're a tomboy and we're not tomboys in this family. Or you grow up and your family is Muslim and you're like, I don't want to follow Islam. I want to be Catholic. Or your family is Jewish and you're like, I want to be a Buddhist. Whatever it is, right? What if that's the case? But when you grow up in an environment like that and these ideas and these notions are ultimately stuffed down your throat, and if you're in an environment that it's unsafe to have your own voice, it's unsafe to be an individual, it's unsafe to express your wants, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, you do what you can to feel safe, and those voices become ingrained in your head, so much so that you think it's your own. There's so many things that I think and that I believe that weren't mine. They didn't come from me. They came from my culture. They came from my family. They came from my mother. They came from whomever. And it's taken a lot of time and effort to unpack it and to identify, is this actually me? Or is this what I believe I'm supposed to be because this is what it's always been?
Hey everybody, my name is Matt. I am the Director of Marketing and Communications at a radio station here in central Massachusetts. I can say it's been nothing but great. Kind of diving into myself and realizing that I need to step out of my comfort zone and build that confidence in my insecurities, but also maintaining who I am as a person. This is a community that's not forcing anything upon you, that wants you to feel nothing but welcome. And it's just super genuine and super honest too, which I like. And again, just recognizing that you are your own person on your own journey, but everybody in the community is here with you. And, we're all at different stages in life, and that's a very important thing to recognize. So Emilia, Bianca, and Derek especially have helped me get to the point where I'm able to kind of excel in my career and in my personal life.
I really believe that that's one of the foundational purposes of therapy, is to understand, who are you and what got you to where you are, and is that who you want to be? Which is why I think everybody needs therapy, because none of us come into this world unscathed, or none of us go through this life unscathed. We all have things. We all have people who impacted us for positive or negative, and every single one of us is doing some things that could be improved or could be, changed. And there's many of us who are living by the standards and the beliefs and the ideas of other people, and we're too afraid to be who we actually are because we're terrified of what's going to happen to us. Am I going to be ostracized from my family because I don't want to follow their script? Am I going to be shunned from my job because I think that my boss isn't doing something correctly, but you're not allowed to say anything? We all follow scripts. Is it serving you? Is that who you want to be? What's going to happen if you don't follow it?
Right. And the ostracization shows up in so many different nuanced ways. Like, for example, I'll speak from one of my experiences here. So as I think I'm the only female entrepreneur in my family outside of one other woman that I know who's a cousin. And everyone else, as females in my family, to at least my current awareness, are what we refer to as family paradigm, right? Their focus is on family. And growing up in my household, I came to the understanding that family paradigm is the most important thing, i.e., everything revolves around family. Now, in my paradigm is growth. And so growth, the best function of growth for me, where everything revolves around how can I grow? How can I evolve? Entrepreneurialism and being enterprising is in my veins, right? And so being an entrepreneur has required a lot of my time and energy and focus, and by choice, right? Like to be an entrepreneur. And so I've always had entrepreneurial endeavors and academic endeavors.
Mm-hmm.
In those small ways in which I've felt ostracization is where if I were to push out a baby, for example, right now, there would be a lot of time and attention and excitement that is rallied around that experience. And that because it aligns with everyone else in my bigger family, their paradigm. Now, what happens when I quote unquote push out another business or another podcast episode or another thing? There's no rallying. And so that subtle nuancing of ostracization, it feels the same. It feels the same as, for example, if you were in your family and you were to buzz your hair as a woman and you were to maybe not get the excitement around like, oh, you cut your hair. And then that inner critic voice is like, don't do it. Don't you dare do that. Don't buzz off your hair. Don't do this. Don't do that. Don't do whatever, right? Don't wear that more quote unquote masculine version of that, or don't wear those popping colors because you might stand out, right? Like all that inner critic voice comes in and tries to have you swerve your life in the direction that it thinks that it should get approval. And I remember another thing. What? You just had something come up.
My mom didn't talk to me for literally 2 weeks when I got my first tattoo.
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Literally
right?
2 weeks.
It's like,
isn't it also fascinating that there's baby showers, there's wedding showers, there's no such thing as like a business shower?
I have thought about that very much. Like, and to be very honest, I'm like there's a part of me that's so upset. And I've talked about this behind the scenes with the client. Like she's dabbled in some entrepreneurial endeavors and she's like, no one like supports this. Like, this is so lonely. Like, this is so brutal. Like, women are not encouraged to be in business and it's not celebrated. And there's no business showers. And if I had one, no one would come because they don't even know what business is. And I'm like, that's not a reflection on you and your business. It's 100% about they don't know how to connect into you and they're not taking it upon themselves to connect into you. And that's a them issue, not a you issue. So yes, I've thought about this very, very in detail because I have been the experienced person on that end for my entire life. Like, for example, just going off on a 1 minute on that, the academics, there's a graduation party, but that's it. There's no conversation about what theories you're learning, what books you're reading. There's none of that when you grow up in a family paradigm or when you're growing up in a friend's paradigm. There are barbecues and this and that, but no one gives a shit about your academics. No one gives a shit about your businesses, endeavors, even though it's something that fills your heart and soul. And then they'll be like, well, they tried to support you. It's like, really?
No, they didn't.
No,
they didn't.
That's a story that they want to tell themselves. So what does that make you do though? Here's to kind of bring this full circle, B. When you are ostracized, when you do recognize and hear that inner critic voice saying, well, I would get more love if I didn't get that tattoo. Mom would actually talk to me if I didn't get these tattoos, right? Like dad would actually approve of this if I actually did get this ring on my finger, or my family would actually celebrate me if I finally got a house, or my family would celebrate me, or my friends would celebrate me if I went to brunch with them, or if I popped out a baby or whatever, right? Like when you recognize that there's a withhold of love or belonging or status or whatnot within the systems of belonging that you have, your culture, your family, your community, whatever, your cohorts, when you know that that's not going to be available, what do you do? How do you respond? Because that's when I find the inner critic voice is the loudest. And that's when I find there's such a beautiful opening for you to really work on choosing a life for you that's meaningful for you, which is the confines of logotherapy that I'm such a big fan of. What is the meaning of your essence, your life, your purpose, and choosing a life that's living by someone else's standards, right? Wearing that thing that you think your mom or dad should wear because it's going to serve them. It's not going to ruffle the feathers. Keeping your hair at that specific length because that's what women or men do. Making sure that you don't choose to ride a bicycle instead of a car because that's more meaningful for you. It's like those are those moments where you recognize it's like, oh, I could live my life by someone else's standards. And you know what? It would probably never be enough. It would also suffocate you until you're literally dead inside. And that's the biggest thing, right? So
facts.
Interesting. Important.
Every single person has a belief on how you should live your life, and you will literally spend your life spinning in circles trying to meet all of those.
Yeah.
The harder thing, and believe me, I know my entire life was basically a rebellion against my parents up until a couple of years ago. It's like, oh, you want me to do this? All right, F you. I'm going to go do this instead. Unconsciously.
AKA
but then
you're
also,
not being rewarded for individuation, which just brutal.
But then also their negative beliefs are like embedded in my head. So it's like, oh, this is fun. But everyone is going to have a belief about who you should be and what you should be. And maybe their opinion has merit, maybe not. And the harder thing, but the more fulfilling and the meaningful thing, is determining for yourself what makes sense for me. Mm-hmm. It is harder. Because when you don't do what people want you to do, they're going to get pissed off. It is 4th of July when Emilia and I are recording this. My dad literally texted me. He's like, why are you working? It's like, because I have shit to do.
The fact that you have to ask shows you how little you know your daughter. Just saying. With all the love.
Most people are living their life a certain way. And there's no judgment. Like, if you want to have that day off, and if you want to, frolic and do whatever, I sincerely hope you enjoy it. But other people are going to criticize you if you don't follow the status quo. And it is going to be the harder thing. And it is going to ruffle feathers, and it is going to piss people off. And you also actually get to be fulfilled and actually get to be happy. And that matters more than people liking you. And that's coming from a freaking people pleaser. I was a people pleaser my whole life. So I get it. It blows, but it is what it is.
The fulfillment it's not an absence of sadness or hurt or of fear, and I want to just be very clear about that too, because when you're not living someone else's standards, there is a shift. Unfortunately, we want to believe that people will love unconditionally and give unconditionally and be in la land of relationships unconditionally. And the truth is that's just not the case. When you actually start to become an individual, you start to really recognize how limited people are in their capacity to still give and to still unconditionally wish you well and show up for you. And that is really difficult. But what's fulfilling and far more worth it, at least from my perspective, and I know not everyone can feel the same around this, is to be far more fulfilled and authentic to your true self than it is to be unfulfilled and completely abandoning any sense of self that you have. So, in closing, my episode suggestion is 407, the fear of finally using your voice. Oof, that ties in very nicely. B.
392, how to embody a high-value person. Emilia and I have always been the rebels in our families. That's why we literally started all of this, because there's so many of us that don't want to live by the standards of other people anymore. And we want to feel safe being ourselves in the world. And we've had the opportunity of helping hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people one-on-one, and thousands in all of the different endeavors that we do. If you want to get out of this trap, please reach out. We would love to work with you. We are both accepting new clients. It will change your life, hands down. Emilia and I are very, very highly regarded in our fields. We know what we're doing. We know what we're talking about. We have the data to back it up. And we sincerely want to help you get to that point. So please reach out. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.